Unova Ash is so disgraceful. Ash really got nerfed to the ground after the Sinnoh League semi-final. Unova would have sold more if Ash didn't sell the whole series. The Gen 5 anime is a failure, the Gen 5 game is a masterpiece. Unova was the biggest disrespect that has ever happened to Ash. Okay, let's talk about it. Okay, so I think it's universally agreed upon that the Pokemon Black and White anime is the worst of the 25-year run series. You may hear things like, oh, they made Ash a dumbass, or his team is a flop, as common criticism. And while these are inherently bad, sometimes I feel like the backlash towards the series is, well, a little exaggerated.
Unova Ash is just brain dead. He's a drooler. This nigga eats crayons and shit. He fucking picks his nose and he has his thumb up his ass half the time.
Not too much on my boy Ash. Well, I'm here to tell y'all that you might have honestly went a little too hard on this show. Hi, my name is Mimikyu, and as a person whose very first Pokemon series was the Black and White series, I'm here to offer you a different take on this. And by the end of this video, I'll hopefully convince you that this series is not as bad as you think. So without further ado, let's get into it. First, let's get into a bit of history. As you all know, the Best Wishes series came right after the Diamond and Pearl saga, arguably the best season of Pokemon up to that point. Normally, after a Pokemon series ends, the ending episode usually follows a pattern where Ash finds out about a new region, goes back to Pallet Town, gets a new set of clothes, and embarks on a plane to said region. But for some reason, the Diamond and Pearl series said fuck all that, so we didn't get any of it, leaving where he was headed a vague mystery. So because there wasn't a direct transition, we were served an Ash that may have seemed a bit different from what fans that followed the show intensely believed him to be, and thus the Black and White series being born. So because this series served to be a soft reboot of the show, they kinda retcon/reset Ash. Now there's nothing wrong with making changes to a character, of course. It can be a good thing when executed properly. Key word here, properly. Because Black and White had like 4 predecessor series at this point, where Ash did grow as a character, fans of the show had grown to know him. He'd gained a lot of experience as a trainer, and it can't be understated, particularly after his face-off with Paul, which was arguably his peak in terms of character writing. So when you take a character like that and hard reboot him, what do you get? Well, yeah, so they pretty much made Ash a newbie again. Now I kinda get why they did this. Ash's journey was meant to emulate the journey of a new trainer to the Unova region. I mean, there's a reason why they restricted the first games to exclusively feature Gen 5 Pokemon until the post game. The problem is that Ash wasn't a rookie. He had like 4 regions worth of trainer experience under his belt, and that's why it started rubbing people the wrong way when he made dumbass mistakes. It made him look like he was an inexperienced and incompetent trainer when he really was not. I think a better way they could have handled this was have Ash be a mentor to a new trainer and have them as a companion, kinda like what he did with Sawyer in XY, since, you know, he kinda saw him as his sensei at some point. That way, it would reinforce the idea to the audience that Ash's experience hasn't been undermined because the writers needed him to be dumb. Now, while many people see this as a flaw of the show, I actually didn't see it like that at all. For anyone who started Pokemon with Black and White like I did, this series was a perfect intro. Because I'd never watched Pokemon prior to Black and White, this retcon was actually a great way for me to connect with Ash and the main cast. With Unova being the fresh Kanto, I think the show did a great job at using Ash's journey to introduce the audience to different gaming mechanics, like type matchups, held items, and status conditions. I especially like how they always made it a point to mention type matchups or abilities when it came to battles, so I could better understand what was going on. So to newer fans, it was a good way to connect with an already established franchise. There wasn't a need to be familiar with the past series. Ash mirrored how it felt to be a new trainer. It felt like we were going on a new beginner journey together. For longtime fans, Ash being reset feels insulting, but to newer fans, that exact reset is what makes the series so welcoming in the first place. Either way, whether you like it or not, the reset did one important thing. It humbled Ash, and that matters a lot when we talk about where his character goes next. The cast of the show. Where should I begin? Our 2 main companions of the show were gym leader and Pokemon connoisseur Silent, and our adventurous dragon tamer Iris. Oh god, we will get to Iris. Now, a lot of criticism relating to these 2 revolved around the fact that they just didn't measure up to the past cast, so like Brock, Dawn, Misty, etc. And to that I have to say, they don't have to. Let's talk about Iris first. Now, Iris gets an insane amount of backlash. People call her annoying, rude, and say she talks down to Ash like she's better than him. And sure, Iris's "you're just a kid" lines did annoy me a lot of the time, but if you actually watch her dynamic with Ash, all she was an albeit blunt, but honest friend to him. It is a breath of fresh air to see a girl that isn't afraid to say what's on her mind. Some of y'all just have never seen a friend be so harshly honest like that. She's the type of person that will call you out when you mess up a bit, but then help you fix it. I think the reason why she got so much flack was because Ash had a lot of experience, and they felt like she had no right to talk to him like he was an inexperienced idiot. And here's the funny part I have to say about that. People say, oh, Ash is being a clueless idiot again, it's so disrespectful. But in the same breath will go, Iris has no right to treat him like that. Who does she think he is, a noob? Well, which one is it? Hell, the show itself portrays Ash as a rusty battler, so it actually makes sense that a confident and opinionated girl would call him out on it. I mean, remember the time when Ash mistook her for a freaking Pokeball? Yeah, she's in her right to act this way. Now, does she overdo it a little sometimes? Yes. I'm not saying she's a flawless character, but I feel like fans gave her way too much crap for it. And to act like Iris was there to give Ash a hard time is very unfair. Hell, she's the one that came up with the idea to dress up in support of Ash when he was struggling with the battle with Roxy. Does that sound like a hateful friend to you? Of course not. Give this girl some grace. It's clear that she cares for him, and it's why she pushes him to improve in her albeit unique way. Her own goal also makes her an interesting character as she aspires to be a dragon master. And as a dragon girly, I love to see it. Her bond with Axew, struggles with not having a full dragon team yet, and her rivalry with Georgia, which we'll get to later, all make her a compelling character that goes beyond the annoying girl people like to label her as. And don't even get me started on how some of y'all switched up on her the minute she reappeared as a champion in Journeys, acting like you didn't tirelessly insult her character all those years ago. Point is, I do feel like fans went too hard on her, and the reason why Silent wasn't as hated is because he did the same, but in a more calmer manner. And speaking of Silent, it's evaluation time. God, I love that line. Now, Silent gets dragged a lot less because when he criticizes Ash, he does so in a way that involves theatrical metaphors, which I did enjoy a lot. I like that he'd give Ash a review of his battle strategies, as if it were some kind of menu, and I like the analogies he would make. Truly a creative character in his own artistic right. So while Iris gave Ash the tough love approach, Silent gave a more poised delivery. So I like to think of them as kinda Ash's parents in a way. I like that these characters balance each other out with their personalities, and that's what made them so great together. They felt less like Brock and New Girl from X region, and more like an actual friend group. For me, Iris and Silent made Unova feel more alive. I like that they challenged Ash's battle strategies because honestly, their dynamic pushed Ash to improve without babying him, and their camaraderie actually set him up for his more mature arcs later on. And that's why I think the main cast deserves a lot more credit than they get. Now, one thing the Black and White series does extremely well is its extended cast of rivals and recurring opponents. I have to say, the wide variety of cast the show brought was incredible, and the fun part was that Ash wasn't the only one who got a rival, cause so did Silent and Iris. We have Trip, the discount Paul people like to hate on, Georgia, the self-proclaimed dragon buster, Stefan, the gym bro rival with a name nobody can pronounce, Bianca, the chaotic clumsy girl that is secretly cracked in battle. God, these people were so likable. They would often clash and faced off at the club's Explosion and other mini tournament events, which served to develop their rivalries even further. As a kid, I remember being so excited to see what would go down whenever there was one of these fighting events. It was honestly some of my favorite parts of Black and White because it was a way to flesh out and get to know some of the rivals that you'd otherwise never get to see. It's also in a lot of these fights that we get to see important evolutions like crocodiles and arcs being developed like Iris and Dragonite, so it honestly made for some good plot and action. This really did feel like some tournament arcs like the Chunin exams in Naruto or the UA Sports Arc Festival in My Hero Academia. This made the series so engaging, and I don't think the anime gets enough credit for it. It just really heightened the world building for me. And speaking of the rivals, let's start with Trip. Alright, so I know y'all really dislike Trip. The common criticism was, oh, they just tried to make him the new Paul, and he was trying too hard. And I'll give y'all credit where credit is due. He had no business belittling Ash and treating him the way he did, especially since we met him when he was starting his journey as a new trainer himself. So Pokemon fans, you're right on that note. However, he has been shown to actually acknowledge and show respect for others. I particularly like the moment where he acknowledged Silent's strength in their battle when he got beat, proving that he's not a stuck-up asshole. He just is to Ash because, you know, plot. I also like the storyline where he goes from not taking Alder, this region's champion, to serious, to mellowing down a bit and learning to understand how important it is to bond with his Pokemon, after he got his ass handed to, of course. It really showed that there was more to Trip than just being an ass to Ash, and I really wish the writers honed on this side of his character a little more rather than his Paul side, because honestly, that would have made for a much more interesting character than what we got. We just didn't get enough of that version. Georgia! I loved Georgia. In my opinion, she is easily one of the best handled rivals in the show. This self-proclaimed Dragon Buster was about her business, and her constant clash with Iris was one of the highlights of the show for me. The fact that she specialized in ice types in contrast to Iris's supposed dragon types, or lack thereof, was so iconic. I like that she got under Iris's skin a lot of the time, because it allowed her to grow as a character in regards to her mission in becoming a dragon master. And she wasn't overly rude too. I felt like every time we saw Georgia, Iris was forced to confront the gap between who she wants to be and where she actually is. Georgia wasn't mean for no reason. She was very competent and one of the few people who can actually press Iris's buttons in a way that leads to growth. And unlike Trip, she actually had the battle experience to back it up. Hell, look at how she battled Ash with her poniard. Although she lost, she gave that man a run for his money. I mean, the girl was packing guillotine, so she definitely wasn't playing around. Stefan! Or Stefan. I honestly liked how amicable he was with Ash as they built a healthy rivalry. He kind of reminds me of Morrison in a way from Hoenn. No toxicity, no weird ego, just a guy who loves battling and respects Ash, which is something I really appreciated. I sure enjoyed him way more than Trip. Their rivalry feels like two athletes who hype each other up and push each other further and further, and their league battle is one of Unova's highlights. It showed that not all rivalries have to be toxic. Also, the running gag where everyone mispronounced his name will never not be funny. That was hilarious. Bianca! Oh my god, how can a girl be so cute and hilarious at the same time? She is a walking disaster in the best way. Kinda reminds me of Barry. One minute she's always either tripping, flustered, or doing something ridiculous, and the next, she's bodying Trip in a battle. She's clumsy, but don't get it twisted, she's serious when it matters. Now there were other minor rivals like Burgundy and Lucas, and Cameron, which we'll get to in a minute, but they didn't appear enough in the show for them to make an actual impact, with Burgundy being there for mostly laughs and giggles, and Lucas being there for Pokestar Studio, which was pretty cool, I must admit. But I just thought I'd mention these two here. Altogether, this network of companions, rivals, and other reoccurring characters is what makes Unova feel so much more socially richer than it gets credit for. It's not just Ash versus his rival, it's a whole ecosystem of trainers growing alongside each other, and that's what I love to see. Alright, now let's talk about the main stars of the show, the Pokémon. So a lot of people argue that this is Ash's worst team ever. The criticism is that it wouldn't be so trash if he just evolved all his Pokémon. And I mean, it's only natural. That's theoretically how a Pokémon is supposed to get stronger. But we've seen some unevolved Ashmons be just as capable, or even stronger than some of Ash's fully evolved Mons. Take a look at his Bulbasaur who tied with a Meganium, or his Rowlet who defeated its evolved form, and a Braviary. And who can forget Pikachu who outright refuses to evolve. It makes light work of every single Raichu it sees. These guys were absolute monsters in their own right, and it proves that you don't need to be with the big guys to be a strong Ashmon, as long as you work in your craft. The problem isn't that Ash's Unova team was weak, it's that the team being constantly rotated meant that some of them wouldn't have enough screen time to properly develop. In this series, Ash was mainly running Pikachu, the Unova starters, and he was changing the last two slots a lot. Because of this, we barely got to know these Pokemon, and it's kind of hard to like someone if you don't know them, so let's get to know the Mons. Snivy. No one can make me hate this diva. She's also like a mother to the group. She kinda gave me like big sister vibes. She's like a little tsundere. I really did like this Mon because she showed that she'd be there for the others, and her moment with Pignite was, dare I say, so sweet. She also definitely doesn't mess around when it comes to battles, cause when she hit her signature attract, you were kinda toast. In my opinion, of course. A 10 out of 10 diva and big sis. Oshawa. Who couldn't love this guy? He was the running gag of the show, always getting caught up in some trouble. I like to say he's kind of like the Pokemon version of Brock. While sometimes he didn't particularly excel in battles, I always liked having him around the cast. And his brotherly bond with Piplup, oh, so cute. He came with a lot of charm, and honestly, if he evolved, that playful goofiness probably would have taken a hit. Like, imagine him as a Duat. Okay, no, I just can't. Pignite, Ash's ace. Now, people didn't like too much because he got the abandoned fire vampire type starter trope with a tragic past attached to his name. And because Pokemon fans were like, oh, I've already seen this shit before, they weren't really buying into it, especially post-Paul. After Chimchar, people were understandably tired of this, but taken on its own, Pignite was actually quite solid. It was reliable in battle and clearly cares about battling alongside Ash. It also genuinely had great moments as well, the highlight for me being it taking out the Hydreigon that swept half of Ash's team, and of course getting his lick back against his past trainer, even though it was kind of repetitive. I do wish this was explored a little more because we only got snippets of this tension at the start of the show, and it kinda got shoved at the end because the writers were like, oh shit, none of his starters have evolved. So I do wish it was a bit more present in the show, because for a while, like, Pignite did seem fine, and honestly I kinda had forgotten it had been abandoned. Despite this, he's far from a bad Pokemon. Moving on to the more underrated mons, Leavanny was a shafted, surprisingly underrated grass starter. I guess because of Snivy's existence. Leavanny similarly took a motherly approach once it actually evolved, and I did like the little leaf costumes it designed for the team. It was also an elegant battler. I just wish we got to see more of it. Boldor, another shafted mon. Wow, this seems to be a trend. To be honest, the only thing I remembered Boldor doing is beating Clay's Excadrill, which was a pretty cool moment to be fair. It was actually my personal favorite gym battle, but oftentimes we barely got to see it, which is a shame because they didn't get the same opportunities as its comrade. I honestly think that a Gigalith would have been pretty cool. Palpitoad, for reasons I can't fully explain, I just love this Pokemon. If there's two Palpitoad fans, then I'm one of them. There was just something about its design or dedication to battling that made it so endearing to me as a kid, even if it barely showed up. Shame if we didn't see it as much, oh god. Leavanny, Boldor, and Palpitoad unfortunately all suffer from the same issue. Not enough screen time. Moving on to Scraggy, the baby of the group. Scraggy walked so Northern could fly. I love this little gremlin. He feels more like a little brother than a fighter sometimes, but regardless, he did great. I liked that Ash helped this young and inexperienced Pokemon develop its battle skills and eventually grow to be actually decent in battle over the course of the show. Now he just needs to learn how to handle those high jump kicks and land those focus blasts. Crocodile, what people argue should be Ash's ace. Honestly, if you told me that Crocodile was the actual ace of the team instead of Pignite, I wouldn't argue with you. I think in terms of character writing, it's probably one of Ash's most fleshed out. It started out always picking fights with Pikachu, and when it finally lost, it got sad thinking it lost its purpose. But Ash chose to catch him, and after that, he became a beast. What a formidable Pokemon. What I liked about Crocodile was the fact that it was a recurring character, even as a Sandile. And do not forget about its swag glasses. I felt like I knew it better than like half of Ash's other mons, even when it wasn't part of Ash's team yet, which I guess clarified the writer's intentions. And last but not least, Unfezant. Unfezant might just be the most hated of the bunch. And yeah, I'll admit she lost to Riolu pretty bad, but I don't actually think this Pokemon is bad at all. Sue me. That Riolu was on crack and was moving different. I mean, just take a look at how it uses the move Vacuum Wave. This is a 40 base move. Why on earth are they making it look like he's about to pull a Rasengan? They damn near put the son of Naruto against my girl. It was rigged from the start. But I thought the Skyla battle where she evolved was fantastic and shows what she's capable of when the writers actually give her something to do. I know she didn't win a lot, but she always tried her best to make Ash proud, and that's what an Ashmon truly represents to me. She's not a powerhouse, but she's definitely not the total joke that people make her out to be either. She just didn't get the battles or development she needed. Overall, I love this cast of Pokemon. They were memorable in their own ways. I just wish the show had allocated more time to fleshing out some of them. It may not have been Ash's strongest team, but they're definitely not pushovers. They're just a group of semi-developed, sometimes shafted, but genuinely memorable Pokemon who got stuck in a season that was trying to do too much at once. So this is more on the writers than the actual Pokemon. But of course, we can't talk about Pokemon Black and White without addressing the obvious elephant in the room, which was the unfortunate event that was... Alright, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. The Unova League is easily Ash's worst league up to date. From facing his main rival in the first round with only one Pokemon, to his embarrassing loss to Cameron, to say this league was a letdown would be an understatement, especially following Ash's much greater league in the previous region. I mean hell, Ash was so strong in Sinnoh that they had to write in a trainer with legendary Pokemon to defeat him. And I stand on that hill, cause we never see Tobias or his scammy ass team ever again. So So yeah, that guy was designed for Ash to lose. So from Ash going to being in the semi-finals and damn near defeating legendary Pokemon, and his rival with genuine strategy, to losing to an idiot who brought 5 Pokemon to a 6-on-6 battle, is absolutely diabolical, and that cannot be understated. This made Ash look like a weakling. I especially didn't like how they alluded to the fact that Ash was going to battle Virgil, who in my opinion was the stronger trainer in this region. That was gonna be the reason Ash lost the league. Cause until Sun and Moon came out, Ash kinda had to lose a league. Virgil had a cool evolution team, so it would have been nice to see them battle. They also had a really missed opportunity to tease Sylveon for the new games. But the fact that we didn't get that and instead got Ash losing to a kid who, mind you, didn't even have enough badges to enter the league was understandably insulting to Pokemon fans. As a kid, I even found it weird when they tried to make Cameron more of a relevant rival than he actually was. Cause personally, I was rooting for a Trip versus Ash 6-on-6. We really got robbed of that. Also, there's a whole episode where Axew gets lost, like genuinely what the hell was that? While the backlash towards this league was pretty understandable, it still has some good moments even if it was a mess. The highlight of the league in my opinion was Stefan versus Ash's battle, because that's where Ash's less utilized Pokemon really got their chance to shine. Crocodile and Leavanny surprisingly put up a good fight, cause if it kept hitting those moves with its swarm ability, Sock would have been toast. This was easily the best battle we got in the league, and it's a shame it was spent on a rival that doesn't matter as much as, say, a Trip. No offense, Stefan. Now here's my take on this. Was the league a flop? Yes. And here's the thing. Ash knew this. It's why he vowed to become stronger at the end of it, reigniting his dream of becoming a Pokemon master. I think this was the right direction in his arc because it isn't realistic to be at your best all the time. Black and White was a glow down that needed to happen because up until Sinnoh, Ash was just progressing as a character, which is a good thing. But being in a positive trajectory can only last you so long because real growth is rarely a straight line. So while the Unova League was poorly written, in terms of Ash's life arc it totally makes sense. My theory is that since after the Sinnoh League, there wasn't really a direct transition of us seeing Ash going to Unova, he went on an extended break and, well, forgot a few things. Maybe he was a little rusty and needed to get his groove back, which is exactly what this season is about. And we can see throughout the show that slowly but surely, Ash does start to redevelop his skills as a trainer. We see him strategize for battles, most of the time, train with his Pokemon, learn to teach them new moves, and come up with creative battle strategies. And they say that once you're at the top, there's nowhere to go but the bottom. And I think that's what happened to Ash in Black and White. I mean, think about it. He was at his peak a season ago. Where else did we want him to go? This league served to be a wake-up call for Ash. And I think his albeit embarrassing loss really helped him realize why he went on this journey in the first place. Remember that Ash initially came to Unova on vacation before deciding to stay. Think like a pre-Alola. So in a way, this league did remind him of his dream. And this is why in XY he starts off the season by declaring he'll win the league. It took that fall off to re-motivate himself, which is something I think the Best Wishes series doesn't get enough credit for. Think about it. If you start off with strong grades in school and then you had a bad semester where your grades slipped, wouldn't your instinct be, oh shit, I have to lock in? Well, now apply this same principle with Ash and it all makes sense. Black and White was Ash's bad semester. Ash's decision to get serious again after his underwhelming league performance and keep pushing toward being a Pokemon master hits harder because he's not just chasing a dream. He's trying to climb back up from a real fall. And when you look at what comes next, it tracks. In XY, Ash trains really hard. He bonds with his Pokemon in ways we've never seen before and reaches an even higher peak. Kalos Ash doesn't exist without Unova Ash getting knocked down a peg first. Now, it doesn't make the Unova League any less frustrating, but it does make it meaningful. I think Ash being humbled here and having a bit of a setback made it so much better when we got to see him shine in the next series. And it happens in life too. Sometimes you're thriving and other times you're in your flop era.
I've had like success and then my flop era, and then it's like, well, okay, like I flopped, so it doesn't scare me anymore.
And that's completely okay. I think we needed Ash to fall to appreciate his peak once more because it shows the realism of the show. He had his peak, fell off, and needed ammunition to bounce back. And that's the role I think this series played in my opinion. So why did you listen to me yap about this nearly 16-year-old show for damn near 20 minutes? Well, if there's one thing you should take away, is that the Pokemon Black and White anime is, dare I say, not trash. Look, did the Ash reset set him back a bit? Yes. Was the league an absolute flop? Yes. Was his team as strong as it could have been? Absolutely not. But none of that inherently makes the show worthless. Honestly, it had so much to offer. It gave us a fun cast with real dynamics, a surprisingly strong network of rivals, a team of Pokemon that are more interesting than people remember, and a humbling period that made Ash's later accomplishments more satisfying. One thing people also barely acknowledge is how many fans Black and White pulled into the franchise. Because it resets so much, it's incredibly easy to jump in without having to watch 4 series worth of content. The same series longtime fans dismissed as the worst is the one that brought an influx of new gen viewers, who then went on to enjoy the XY, Sun and Moon, and Journey series just as passionately. Most importantly, it became a starting point for a lot of new fans who might have otherwise never fallen in love with Pokemon. Because truly, if it weren't for this series, I wouldn't be as into Pokemon as I am today. I really owe it to Black and White, which is why I have so much appreciation for this show. And the freshness of this series really catapulted me into liking Pokemon, and I can't stress this enough. I even found myself enjoying this series when I was rewatching it for this video, and I don't think I would have had the same feeling if I had started watching Ash in, say, his Hoenn journey, since that would have meant I would have had to backtrack all the way to the Indigo League and watch every single episode up to that point. But this series kind of made it so that you didn't have to do that, while also delivering what makes for a great journey, which is why I was excited to see Ash continue his journey into Kalos later on. So the next time you see someone call Black and White the worst series ever, maybe think twice about it. It's flawed, sure, but it's definitely overhated and gets less credit than it actually deserves. If you've never watched it or you dropped it years ago out of frustration, I honestly think it's worth going back to Unova with fresh eyes. So if you enjoyed this video and made it to the end, thank you. Hopefully this opened your mind a bit more to the show, and you'll look at it slightly differently. Now I won't be exclusively doing Pokemon content because I'd like to talk about some other anime I like. So if you want to stick around, please feel free to subscribe. Until next time my friends, thank you so much for tuning in. Ciao!